All right, welcome back to Denoise. We're going to talk about AI actresses getting signed by talent agencies. We're going to talk about where the Runway Lionsgate deal might have fallen apart with some tech issues, and a breakdown of real VFX artists using AI combined with Nuke.
Yes, sir. More AI, more problems.
Let's get into it.
More models, more problems.
Welcome back, Addy.
Welcome back, Joey.
Good to virtually see you again.
I am not sure if I like this or not.
Because I didn't want to drive on the 405. For anyone that just listens to this, it probably makes zero sense because you just hear our voices. So, like, you don't notice that there's any difference whether we're in person or recording this virtually on Riverside.
I think the audience can tell. I think there's a little bit more lag between our deliveries, our interactions, and also we're not drinking coffee together.
I know. I just have my paper cup of coffee right now. So.
Oh, there you go. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Yeah.
All right. So our first story, people are kind of flipping out over an AI actress, Tilly Norwood, potentially getting signed by a talent agency. If you're a longtime listener of Denoised, AI actresses and AI actors being signed by talent agencies is actually not really news because we've talked about this for a while and made a bunch of comparisons to this before. But yeah, let's talk about this story because also I've never heard of this AI actress / influencer, Tilly Norwood.
And why are the names always so gimmicky?
I don't know. Well, she is a British, developed by a British company, so I think it's got to sound pretty British.
Yeah, it just sounds like a made-up name. It is, I mean, maybe that's the point.
It is a made-up name.
Tilly Norwood.
Yeah. All right. So this came out. There was a panel. Deadline had some AI panel or something in Zurich. And the developer behind the company that developed Tilly Norwood, Eline van der Velden, revealed that they were in talks to potentially have signed the AI actress with talent agency. And also, I noticed some photo on this panel is Verena. That's running Luma AI's Hollywood incubator studio, which we are still figuring out what's going to pop out of that.
Yeah, I see some snippets of that lab on LinkedIn. John Finger posts here and there.
I see John Finger posts all the time.
It seems like there's a bunch of people in there working away.
Yeah, incubator. Yeah, so that'd be cool. Okay, but back to Tilly Norwood. So it's a little bit confusing because in the article it mentions that Van der Velden behind the company that developed her, it named one company as Excoya, and then it named another company as Particle 6. So I'm not quite sure. I think Particle 6 is the company, the production studio.
Yeah, so I went on the Particle 6 website, and it looks like they check all the sort of relevant and modern AI boxes. So they have the AI avatars, they have AI VFX, they have AI drama reconstruction. So we talked about all of these use cases for AI before. Looks like a 2-person team from what I could tell. So it's Van der Velden as well as another gentleman. I can't get his name from the website.
Right.
But,
or probably 2 head people and then a team of AI developers, artists, people.
And it looks like they're hiring 4 people.
Yeah.
They're hiring an AI creative producer, an AI video motion magician, an AI production intern, as well as a researcher developer type.
Yeah, I mean, everything on this list is like kind of all of the buckets that AI sort of fits in right now. Cinematic nature montage, showcase, VFX, drama reconstruction, which is what Jenny AI has been doing sort of as their specialty. Commercials, yeah, it's just like all the entire gamut. The influencer thing is just here. Let's go to her Instagram. And I know I'm saying her as it's an AI. All right, Instagram got about 16,000 followers, which feels low for me for a product that would sign with the talent agency. Potentially, I'm assuming the talent agency deals would be like brand deals, brand promotions, stuff like that. I think probably calling it an AI actress is like the triggering part. Unless if they call it AI influencer, that might be less triggering.
Yeah, exactly. You're encroaching on SAG territory, the precious quote unquote celebrity territory with somebody that's fully synthetic. And of course, this is going to cause some hair to rise on people's arms and shoulders. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, we've talked about this before, and it feels like it's in the same bucket as CG influencers like Code Miko. Not Code Miko, that's a different, that's a...
Lil Miquela.
Lil Miquela.
Code Miko is also also a synthetic influencer. Yeah,
but
powered by a real.
It is powered by a real person who, Kumiko's a CG avatar that is powered by an actual human being who plays the character. Lil Miquela, very popular CG non-existent character, but it's developed by a team of people, right? Unreal and traditional.
Yeah, I worked on a couple of Lil Miquela episodes back in the day. It was a fascinating look at how a digital character was run, and I'm guessing fasting forward to today, it's probably the same thing. There was an entire creative and technical team behind this one synthetic character. The team was like 10 plus people, and it was really interesting because they obviously have an idea of what she should be, what her life should be. Lil Miquela was bisexual and had both girlfriend and boyfriend problems, and all of these things that were fabricated to make her really interesting and really appealing to a broad demographic. And then on top of that, there was real products placed within a lot of the campaigning. Right. So, I think she had a Samsung campaign for a while that paid real money from Samsung to do.
Yeah, because people see the posts, and I mean that's basically what the companies are paying for. It's like, do people see the posts? Does it get engagement? Cool, product placement.
Yeah, Lil Miquela was done, I would say at the time back in 2019, 2020, right before the pandemic, at the highest level of Unreal Engine quality that was achievable at the time, using some of the best Unreal artists at the time were on that project.
It didn't look photorealistic, right? Like Lil Miquela, that was
part of it. Like you knew what you were getting into, and it was cool.
Yeah. So here's Lil Miquela's feed: 2.3 million followers.
Right.
I mean, well, I will say this does actually look more realistic, but you can tell it's like it has that metahuman feel
for sure. Like the character is in the uncanny valley, but what they used to do was they would composite her into real backgrounds and real photos of real people. Like in this case, they would take a photo of this real guy holding nothing, right? And then they would just composite Lil Miquela into his back.
But you're aware, it's not like they're trying to pass her off as a real person, And look, also, they're not trying to pass Tilly Norwood off as a real person. It says that is an AI creation, but it also, instantly off the bat, this looks photorealistic. This looks like a real person.
Not to me, no.
Because right away. If I just showed you like a stack of images of just like young women posing on with their coffee,
the one dead giveaway for me with synthetic avatars is they're too symmetric.
Like the face.
So yeah, like 99% of human beings on the planet are asymmetric. So like our right eye is a little higher than our left eye, and all those subtle cues give us away as to that we're real. And synthetic generations just tend to be too perfect. In this case, you can see here,
but look, I mean, I'm saying they didn't make this as a character as like a CG character that they're using AI to power it. They're like this. Look, they're making this as photorealistic as is possible with the technology today. Is that like?
It's good enough. Like,
I'm talking about the intent. I'm not talking about how does it look and how does it look because you like identify this stuff. I'm talking about the intent.
Sure. The intent is to make it photoreal. I think
to look photorealistic.
It's indistinguishable from reality.
Yeah, like if you're scrolling and you like didn't stop to look and read the stuff, you would think this is like a girl posing with her coffee.
With generic cup of Starbucks.
It wouldn't most likely to 99% of people would not stand out to them as something was weird about this.
Right.
We talked about the AI influencer stuff and the actor stuff. Where are you thinking about this? To flip this is definitely obviously like synthetic looking.
So here's my opinion on this. I think it's very gimmicky, and it may have a short-term win with a couple of maybe big product campaigns or perhaps even a placement in an AI movie. But in the long run, this is not something that will stick, and we'll forget about it a year or two from now. And I think what will be more interesting is taking a real person and turning that real person into many different likenesses. For example, if you take Joey, I would really want to see a 15-year-old Joey and a 65-year-old Joey doing two completely different things. Or
I don't want to see that.
Just taking an example, I think it's far more interesting to attach a synthetic avatar to a real person and tie it back to a real person than to have completely synthetic avatar creation.
Yeah, if it's part of their thing. I mean, I'm also thinking of, they've got those hologram boxes. I forgot what the company name is, but, the big box that creates like a hologram lifelike version of like a real actor. And then it has some AI programming in it. So you could talk and ask questions to them and they sort of respond based on the context of your question if they have enough material to generate that. So, it sounds like what you're saying is sort of in that realm of real person. And it's like, oh, maybe they can be in more places than once or replicate themselves to kind of do more things than they could physically attend or be at because of scheduling or just feasible issues. Like you can't have a 15-year-old version of an actor that is 40.
I mean, if you're looking at everything that you're showing on the Instagram page here, like everything here seems so uninteresting and bland and generic. Like there is nothing in here that makes me want to go back and watch this again. Even the way she looks very generic. You can't pick her apart in a lineup of a bunch of AI avatars.
Yeah. I mean, also, like, what is her backstory? Like, what is the story? Because I'm not saying, like, you couldn't pull this off. It's like we obviously, as humans, fall in love with fictional characters all the time of just, like, getting engrossed in their story and root for them. So, like, I'm not saying it's not possible to create a synthetic character if you develop, like, a whole story around them or some background or something around them that sort of is another version of storytelling and you're just doing it through social media with synthetic characters versus making a short film or a movie or a TV series. I don't see that with this. I mean, maybe there's more there that I haven't dug into, but that could be something that could potentially work in the synthetic route of story and world building with synthetic characters.
Yeah, I think that's where you and I agree to disagree. I don't see it that way. Even if you're generating a fully synthetic film like what Kayvon the Kid did, Echo Hunter, in that you have Brock, I forget his last name, but you have a real actor whose digital likeness was used. Yeah, and it was approved by... I think that is really interesting because you instantly attach that notion of Brock and who that actor is to the performance that's being displayed on screen, and you just have this natural connection to it versus looking at fully synthetic backgrounds, fully synthetic actors, everything synthetic. You're just like, what am I even looking at?
Yeah, I'm not saying I love it, but I'm saying I think there's an audience for it. If you have the story and you have the connection and you build up the connection to that character through old school, traditional storytelling techniques and not just like what you're saying with this hype, with this reel, with a bunch of just random shots of this AI character in a bunch of random scenes where it's just like, what's the point of this? Like, I don't have any fictional connection to this character who's just doing a genre. Yeah, just running around a bunch. One thing I did maybe think about what you're talking about with the sort of like flash in the pan aspect about this is part of this and the signing and building up these AI actors or talent. Part of it feels like the 2025 version of Bored Apes, where that was like NPC, hype reel, flash in the pan, tons of money moving around. And then, what are the Bored Apes? People that spent a couple $100,000 on them, now they're worth a couple bucks, maybe. Is this the sort of AI version of like Bored Apes, build up the character, build it up, try to get some money inside, and then...
Absolutely. I think there's so much investor money out there, and if you even built a fraction of an audience as big as a real influencer, I mean, the investors are just going to be all over it. What I'll say about what your comment was earlier about, if you can create a real connection to a synthetic avatar, that I think would be a really interesting experiment. It is yet to be seen, and maybe I'll be proven wrong and you'll be proven right. But if somebody can figure out how to make authentic, genuine, mass level connection to somebody fully synthetic with an audience that's massive, then we're really talking about a whole new genre of entertainment and a new window into this world.
Yeah, and speaking of genre, that was their response, because they did post a response to the initial story coming out, and then a lot of anger and stuff over the creation of what they're calling it now an AI character in this posted response. Quote, "She is not a replacement for a human being, but a creative work, a piece of art. I see AI not as a replacement for people, but as a new tool, a new paintbrush. Just as animation, puppetry, or CGI open fresh possibilities without taking away from live acting, AI offers another way to imagine and build stories." So, yeah, they're sort of saying it's its own genre. I think that's what I'm saying before. I think calling it a AI actor was a bad label. And I think AI character, synthetic character, or AI influencer is more fitting with like what this is trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I see the point that this is not replacing a person. To me, it feels like it is. And if you take a up-and-coming actress from this town, there's a lot of them here in LA, and you put them in front of a camera, you put them in front of, you know, whatever set environment that you're building synthetically, or you sort of take the real person's likeness and then you cast this entire AI avatar on this real person. I think that'll go much further along in believability and adoption.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of saying, oh, is it replacing a real person?
Sure.
I mean, for this, I see it's like, it's a social media platform. It's a level playing field. It's more just like building the audience, like everyone's in that same game if you're trying to build an audience. And so if you're a person, or if you're trying to build an audience around your real self, if you're trying to build an audience around a character you create, it's all in the same playing field. So I don't really see this taking away a job from a real person. They're building out a brand around something, and you know, people build brands around themselves, and it's just more like who is more successful at building the brand.
I can see your point. What happens when there's enough of Tilly like when there is 100 Tilly Norwoods?
That's why I think it's just going to get so diluted. And that's where I think the Bored Apes comparison comes in. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, they're not the first to create an AI influencer character. And there's just going to be, and like, it's just getting easier and easier to do that. And it's just going to be so diluted that either you're going to have to go back to the basics and like really build a brand and a story and you know, something that attaches you to whatever this character is, besides just like generating a pretty face, or you know, it's just going to get buried with everything else. And to what when we talked about this like a few weeks ago with other AI characters, that's why I still think if you are a, you know, real person, like I think the biggest buffer you're going to have in this sort of AI future is building the brand and like being yourself and building the brand and authenticity around yourself. Because as big as AI or CG influencers get, they can never do like a real in-person event. You can never like actually meet them in person. Sure, you can make all the chatbots and virtual experiences you want, but there's like, they will just never exist. Whereas, you know, if you're a real person, you're building up that authenticity. Like, we are real people. Like, people can see us. They see us at events. We have like, I feel like that's the buffer in the future to kind of rise up above like the AI noise that's going to be super easy for anyone to generate.
Yeah, all of the above that you said. In addition to that, a real person has genuine reactions to current events or somebody else's content or somebody else's opinion, and an AI can only mimic that reaction, not really have an authentic one. A real person can have some emotional up days, some down days, and those things create, for lack of a better term, art, right? And like as human beings, like those are the things that we also resonate with and connect with other, you know, creators. So again, like there's so like 90% of what makes a social personality quote unquote real is missing from what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. All right, I think enough Tilly for now, right? You got any more Tilly? Anything else on Tilly?
Tilly Norwood. Hope to never see you again. Well, okay, maybe
she's gonna haunt you. She's gonna haunt your dreams now.
Goodbye, Tilly Norwood. I will see another 100 of you in the next episode.
I think every time you generate something now, it's just gonna be Tilly Norwood appearing. It's gonna haunt your latent space. All right, next up, this one came out like a week ago, but we didn't really get a chance to talk about it, and we've been texting thoughts about this a lot.
We both have thoughts about this.
Yeah. All right. So The Wrap had a big story on the Runway Lionsgate deal, which was announced last year, and they sort of were Lionsgate was sort of the first studio to announce the partnership, you know, with Runway, a big AI company. And the gist of it was like Runway was going to train on Lionsgate's extensive film library, make custom models. They were going to use this for, I don't know, it sounded like every stage of the production process, from like storyboards to previs to possibly like generating trailers, all sorts of stuff. And we haven't seen anything come out of that. And The Wrap had this kind of deep dive into all of the tech issues that have happened.
Yeah. Everything that I'm going to say about this is going to be purely speculative. Obviously, we don't know what's happening behind the closed doors at Lionsgate.
Right, aside from whatever was reported in this article.
Yeah, and also we don't know what products or what R&D projects that Runway is throwing at the efforts internally. And from my guess is, what's probably happening is that Lionsgate has very precious IP, perhaps John Wick as an example. So if you take the John Wick world, and that's a beautifully created world that has a very specific style to it. The characters look a certain way, and there's like this entire film noir look to it. I guess what they were trying to do and what they're trying to do internally is maybe recreate some of that, maybe do some shot replacement for the next John Wick installment or the TV show or what have you.
I think that's too detailed from what they were trying to do.
What do you think they were trying to do?
Well, here, okay, so let's cover the article first, then we kind of jump into that.
All right, sounds good.
From the article, over the last 12 months, the deal has encountered unforeseen complications, from the limited capabilities that come from using just Runway's AI model to copyright concerns over Lionsgate's own library and the potential ancillary rights of actors. The reality is that utilizing just a single custom model powered by the limited Lionsgate catalog isn't enough to create those kinds of large-scale projects. It's not that there was anything wrong with Runway's model, but the data set wouldn't be sufficient for the ambitious projects that they were shooting for. Lionsgate Vice Chairman Michael Burns, last month he bragged to New York Magazine's Vulture that he could use AI to remake one of its action franchises, an allusion to John Wick, into a PG-13 anime. 3 hours later, I'll have the movie.
Right.
Okay, so that was one of the targets they're going for.
That's not going to happen.
Take an IP, existing property we have, and then respin it into Spider-Man into the verse or some, high art animation masterpiece. No, okay. That obviously that didn't happen. The first thing when this deal was announced, the thing that always stuck out to me was Lionsgate does not, I can't say Lionsgate has a visual language that is like I can't say, oh, there's the Lionsgate look. Yeah. Like Lionsgate produces movies. There's a whole bunch of movies they've produced. They all look different. Yeah. So when it was like, oh, we'll train it on their whole catalog of stuff, it was like aside from John Wick, what you're saying, it's like there's what other franchise in there? There's no Lionsgate look. It's not like Studio Ghibli. It's
Marvel.
Not like
Lionsgate is not
Pixar. Right. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Even those, they all have different kind of looks and stuff. Yeah. And then so just training on the movie would be like, that's not a lot of data to train on.
And the variance.
Maybe if they can source all of the material, maybe you'd have more stuff of not just the final product of the film, but every element of the VFX passes, all of the raw footage of the outtakes and all of that stuff. Maybe you could get more. I'd be curious if that was the plan to train it on all of that data too. I remember a long time ago when we talked about that AI training company that was brokering deals with YouTube creators, but the thing they were interested in was the YouTube creators' entire raw media library, not just their outputs, but all of their outtakes, because that data was extremely useful for all of the AI companies to train on. Right. So I'm curious about that.
So a couple of things going on here. From the Lionsgate executive side, I think the expectations are just way too sky high. Being able to generate a PG-13 version of John Wick just from ingesting it into a Runway engine, that seems ridiculous. We're not even close to that.
I mean, that seems like the same gist of all of these other executives a year or two ago when it was AI is going to revolutionize our entire workflow, and we're just going to switch everything to AI, and then now a year later it's we couldn't do as much as we thought we could.
So it's really interesting that the entire Lionsgate library is not enough for quote unquote training the model. Mm-hmm. What I think is happening here, and I don't have information on how our system architecture is underneath the Runway video generation model, but on an image generation side, the foundational models take billions and billions of images to train, and once it's trained, you can then attach a LoRa or something that in the size of 20 to 30, maybe 50 images to then pull that foundation model to generate in a direction that you want. And video generation's the same. For WAN 2.1, WAN 2.2, you could build custom tuned LoRa's using, 50, 100 images, and it'll do more or less what you train the images on, right? So if you take screenshots from the John Wick film, and if you have enough, let's say 100 images or so, you would more or less be able to generate the environments and perhaps even the actors' costumes in that likeness. I'm not going to say it's going to be usable or production ready, but it will certainly get you there. So perhaps there is a limitation on the customization and how much Runway model could be fine-tuned. And maybe there's a lot of pain there to kind of get the correct output that you want. And the second thing, which you nailed, is the Lionsgate catalog is so varied. It's just like, they've made so many types of movies and so many different genres, so many different types of looks, that to train on the entire Lionsgate library is not really going to get you anything specific.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's good, high quality data for just a general model, but yeah, it's not like Pixar, it's not like Studio Ghibli, there's not like a Lionsgate look.
There's no look. Yeah, I think the only advantage is perhaps Lionsgate has access to, the raw files from the camera or the EXR files from VFX. And if you combine those things, you can train an upscaler model to have EXR output, 16-bit output. And it's kind of what Luma has done with Ray 3.
Right.
So there is advantages to having really high quality data. But as far as like custom tuning a video generation model to output a certain style of movie, like if I had James Cameron's Titanic, right, that's a 3-hour movie, and if I was able to train on that, I'm pretty sure I could get a lot of the details accurate when I generate Titanic shots.
I think also, where the example you're giving where it's like, yeah, you could train a LoRa with like WAN 2.2. The issue, that they called out was like, yeah, it's also limiting to just only be able to use Runway. And like kind of anyone that's in the AI space, you're using every tool available because all these models sort of do different tasks better than others or make things better than others. And so just being sort of tied down to Runway, even with being able to have their support to train a custom model, is still limiting to like what you're able to do with and not have the full tool set available to you.
Totally. And I think the approach here is like coming from two different angles, right? Like if you look at what Netflix did with the Eternaut, where they did a shot insertion where something that would have been VFX would have been really heavy and complicated, and they just used AI for that shot and they got it done, right? But it wasn't at a TV show level or a movie level. Like they weren't trying to generate the whole thing in AI. They were just nitpicking and taking a couple of things here, replacing it with AI. If Lionsgate takes that approach, it's a much easier ramp up. It's a much easier adoption curve, I think, into getting the filmmakers to start to use AI.
Yeah, I think it's one-click vision of like, we take our movie and then we could turn it into anime, or we could turn it into some like TV show episodic in a foreign language in like 3 hours is pie in the sky, at least for, a while.
At least for now, yeah. And I think it will be for a long time because you're not only having to generate a very convincing storyline that resonates back to the original world, but then there's so much gap filling you have to do in building this environment, this world, this style in detail, put the characters in there. And if they're synthetic avatars, then you have a whole set of problems to try to make them look realistic and sound realistic. And you just open up a can of wormholes that you don't know how to fix.
Yeah. But yeah, I think what you're saying, and we'll actually show this in our next story, using these tools for specific parts of the process, whether that's previs, whether that's storyboarding, whether that's like helping with VFX shots, rather than like this large encompassing approach where you're like, yeah, we're just going to make the whole movie with AI. Like that's not going to work. But the specific using AI to help speed up specific processes in like the traditional filmmaking workflow is where there'll be like more instant gains.
Absolutely. And just to kind of go back to Runway's capabilities, I mean, they're probably the leading provider of AI-powered VFX solutions. I mean, I can't think of anybody better in this space where, if you take a product like Aleph, like who's really doing the stuff that Aleph can do? Maybe it's not fully movie quality ready, but it certainly is very, very powerful and is kind of paving the way for VFX that's AI powered.
Yeah, but I mean, look, also it is a black box and you're kind of just like, yeah, tell it what to do and it sort of does the thing, but you don't really have that. I mean, I'm curious what the deal looks like when you have, enterprise support like Lionsgate has and like what additional features or controls they unlock. But I think of the only other kind of thing I've seen that it does sort of what Aleph does, was the Big Muppets workflow that we covered a few weeks ago, where he sort of built that WAN 2.1 Comfy UI workflow where he takes an existing video, can mask out the person, keep the person completely consistent, and then change everything else around them. But that is a complete Comfy UI workflow using open source tools. But the bigger thing is, like, it's built in Comfy UI. You can see every step of the process of how it's doing it.
Every step
and you
of
can
the process.
control, you can change, you can fine tune it. You have like that highest level node-based pipeline that professional studios and VFX artists are used to having that level of control.
Lionsgate should have just hired Mick.
I know, yeah, right?
I mean, and maybe it's not the technology, maybe it's the people. Perhaps it's a different way to think about it.
Or yes, maybe it's the organization too, because it's like, I'm just, like, we don't know that much, but it's like Lionsgate is a studio office. Like, I doubt there are any actual like VFX people on staff for Lionsgate. Like, if they make a movie like John Wick,
doubt it.
They're going to another VFX shop that is going to do the VFX work for them, or probably a couple of VFX shops. So like every movie is a completely different assemblage of teams and people and companies. Yeah. Like Lionsgate
movie making has always been a silo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, every movie is like a little mini startup company that like a bunch of pieces come together and a bunch of different contracts and stuff, which also, that's the contract thing was another issue of just like dissecting the rights of every single movie, and because every contract's unique, every movie's unique. And that the other roadblock was just figuring out, do they have the rights to ingest some of these movies to train in the AI models? And that's going to be another issue as well with training on existing IP.
Also, in addition to what you said, I'll even take it a step back further, which is that with the exception of perhaps Disney and Netflix, which are fully vertically integrated, right? Like they have a execution arm, they have a technology arm, and they could go all the way down to making the thing and then distributing it. With the exception of those two studios, I would say every studio, like a Lionsgate, like an A24, is more or less a financial institution. And what I mean by that is you just got a bunch of executives and a bunch of people that make big money decisions, right? They'll give the John Wick filmmaker $100 million to go make John Wick 4 or whatever. And then it's up to that filmmaker to figure everything out. Now, those folks that are making these big high-level decisions with money are not really going to understand the nuances of what is and is not possible with AI. So I think there is a fundamental difference of those two worlds.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Lionsgate has a tech arm that like offers support. I think like there's some similar stuff even with the vertically integrated companies like a Netflix, where even if they bring on they produce a movie with an outside production company, they sort of have a tech division where it's like, hey, we can provide support and help you with problems and stuff because we've see this happening across a bunch of different films that we're producing, and so we could help you however you need help with. But
to some extent, Amazon as well, right? Amazon has the technologies in-house and stuff.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if they were trying to do something similar with that, and it's like, here's this sort of wide-ranging support for all of the projects that are happening. But what you're saying, Lionsgate is an office building that is producing movies, like getting the financing and funding and distributing them and stuff. But they're bringing out every movie is a completely different mesh of teams and people and other companies. So I'm just kind of curious what the initial vision was, and then like how this is gonna play out in the future. Like, I don't see why this wouldn't work for previs or storyboarding or concept designs or poster mock-ups or like, I don't see why this wouldn't work for that. I think
there's a lot of opportunity for a generative AI company to build real value and real efficiency within a movie making pipeline.
Yeah, an existing pipeline, something that already is there, and how you can fit into that and save time and money.
Well, I mean, best of luck to Runway. I'm a big fan, and I hope that they have a few wins at Lionsgate, and that's all you really need to get the steam rolling.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I think it probably just hit the roadblocks from the initial vision, but I don't think this is a fail. I think there will still be good things that come out of this.
I think it's a big misunderstanding, if anything.
Yeah, I think this is the same. This is the film industry thing in the bucket of the CEO that goes, we're going to replace our entire tech support staff with chatbots because they can handle everything, and then realizing like, they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's the Duolingo thing.
Yeah, exactly. The Duolingo of M&E.
Yes.
All right, last story. And this one kind of goes to what we've just been talking about, blending traditional VFX pipelines with AI.
So we saw this X post by Freddy, Chávez, Olmos, and I looked him up on IMDb, a very accomplished VFX supervisor, I think based out of Montreal, if I'm not mistaken, worked on movies that you'll recognize, such as The Meg, Annihilation, Deadpool, Chappie, American Sniper, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, and The Mandalorian. So there you go. This is somebody who is deep in the world of tier 1 filmmaking, understands the quality that's required, and is also really familiar with, sounds like, all of the AI tools we have on hand today. So what happens when you give somebody with this level of skill and this eye for quality the tools that we have? Take a look.
So basically what he did was he showed comparisons with some original footage and some footage that was already had traditional VFX, like some older shots from Twilight, and then redid them using modern AI tools. His tech stack is WAN 2.2 Animate in combination with Nano Banana, Beeble, and Nuke for VFX enhancements, replacements, and full head de-aging. And we can see some of these comparison side-by-side tests of some original footage, like this Nick Cage concept as Superman.
Yep.
This was the Twilight shot, where it was just the actor and then replaced with the
there's
wolf.
3 examples, and each of these 3 examples is what I would call very classic VFX problems to solve, right? Mm-hmm. So the first one is relighting and sort of head rotation and maintaining likeness, which is the Nicolas Cage Superman example that we're showing you here. So it looks like he did a second pass using Beeble to relight Nicolas Cage and perhaps maybe even generate him from scratch and then composite it all back together in Nuke. And it's a really tricky shot because his head and his body is rotating, so you can't just have like a plastered face. You actually have to have spatial awareness of that move. And then the second shot, this is from one of the Twilights where, you're essentially have a stand-in that gets composited out and then replaced with a CG animal, a wolf. And it looks like WAN 2.2 Animate was used here to create the wolf, and then all of that was composited with Nuke.
Yeah, so what do you think the workflow would be? So you think it would be track the body with WAN 2.2 Animate?
So I think he used Nano Banana to generate the wolf. So you have your reference wolf image, and then you give that to WAN 2.2 Animate, and you input the motion of the mocap actor here that you see with a gray suit on. That's your input to WAN 2.2, and then your output is going to be that wolf in that same motion cycle. And in Nuke, you're probably feathering and blending a lot of, like, that fur looks really difficult to blend and composite in. So obviously this guy's really good at Nuke, so he's doing a lot of heavy lifting here that we're not seeing.
And do you think he would have used WAN 2.2 and sort of just to create the wolf on like either green background or on something that he could composite out and then layer it on top of?
You would have to maintain, in just like any other composite, you have to maintain the same camera lens and the same camera perspective for both plates. So I'm guessing in Nano Banana, perhaps there is this entire frame in there just to kind of decipher what the cinematography language is and then replicate that in WAN 2.2. So when you blend those two things together, it looks like it's being shot from the same camera.
Yeah. Also, I mean, just with her hand touching the fur, that also looks really good too, and like blends right in.
Yeah, exactly. It's really tricky, but the fact that no computer graphics was used per se, like this wolf is not a digital wolf that was built in Blender and the fur was done in Next-Gen, and it's none of that. It's completely synthetic in that it was just generated in WAN 2.2.
Yeah, here actually I just noticed in his behind the scenes thing he has where he completely erased the actor and then brought in. Yeah. And then, this Paul McCartney de-aging.
The Paul McCartney de-aging is nuts. It looks so good. I mean, looking at this stuff 10 years ago, our minds would have been blown, and now it's just like a post on X,
Yeah, I remember when it was such a big deal when they did it in like Forrest Gump and like inserted him in archival footage.
Exactly.
Tom Hanks.
Exactly.
And now it's like I'll just run it on my computer.
Well, people still talk about like The Irishman where De Niro and Pacino were de-aged.
Yeah, and they had to shoot that with like the 3-camera rig, this massive thing.
Exactly. They had like an infrared camera set up and a traditional camera set up, and it was like a whole thing. and now you're able to just do it in comfy, more or less.
What do you think was this? You think like giving old images of Paul McCartney and Nano Banana to replace the face to have that driving image, and then animating? It's kind of similar, I think you were talking about before, animating it with Juan and compositing with Nuke.
Yeah, I mean, he picked a good example because Paul McCartney's hands and his torso when he's older match that of when he's younger.
They look the hands DH too.
The hands look a little bit DH as well, but it's a 2.2 input output example, right? You give it the old Paul McCartney motions as an input, and then with Nano Banana, you give it a young McCartney as the reference, and then output is this. And I think the magic here is the lighting matches really well. He's blending in with the couch, and the shadows are cast correctly. His face is lacking a little bit of detail. If you look at the old,
I wonder if that's a resolution issue too, because I'm wondering what he's outputting WAN 2.2 at, because like sort of I think it kind of is in that 720 range to have some usability. I mean, I think you could crank it up to 1080, but it might take forever, and you would need some beefy machines. So I'm curious what these, because also I mean we're looking at this on X, which is already compressed. So I'm curious what the outputs were being done at. My
guess is he grabbed the video from YouTube, perhaps, so it's not going to be high quality to begin with. So input is output, and you're not going to have a higher quality output per se. But if the average person looks at this, they'll think it's real, right? Like, we're nitpicking here and we're trying to find flaws, but really, like, this is well done, and this is acceptable for
this looks great.
Talk show level for sure.
Yeah, and I think this goes, directly to what you were just talking about. What we were talking about in the last stories, where it's like this is the future of taking traditional VFX pipelines and using AI to help enhance it, speed it up, make it better, and do stuff like this with that one person just kind of messing around in their free time, making something look this good.
Yeah, and I don't want to take any of the attention away from, I think, the bread and butter of what is happening here, which is Nuke. So much heavy lifting is being done on the compositing side, whether that's, the edging, the feathering, the blending, the highlight control, the shadow control, skin tone matching, and all the stuff that he's probably doing under the hood. I don't even know. I'm not a Nuke artist. He clearly is. And with AI tools and with traditional VFX tools like Nuke, those two things combined, I think, gives a way to a completely new type of workflow, one that is potentially far less expensive than traditional VFX.
All right, good place to wrap it up. Let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments, and links for everything we talked about, as usual, in the show notes or over at denoisedpodcast.com.
And just going back to our last video on YouTube, thank you all for the comments. Sora Not Sora added again, Reed 4109, as well as two new commenters, Ober Doofus and Dub Creation Studio. We thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll catch you in the next episode.